In October 1996, reports of bizarre aerial phenomena appeared across the globe. Witnesses in Brazil described giant rectangular craft hovering over major cities, while observers in Ohio reported triangular objects in the night sky. In Australia, researchers were logging a massive wave of activity across the entire region. The most spectacular Australian claim from this period involved a massive, glowing silver sphere. Witnesses reported seeing it wrapped in a luminous mesh-like aura as it rose directly out of a dark, turbulent ocean surface at night. This information was being aggregated and broadcast through an early digital newsletter called UFO Roundup. The October 27th issue collected these accounts, placing the Australian sightings alongside reports of mass panic in Brazil. This detailed narrative creates a specific evidentiary requirement. If a gigantic craft actually surfaced off the coast, it should appear in police logs, aviation records, or contemporary newspapers. Yet, a search of mainstream public records from the Sunshine Coast in 1996 yields nothing. There are no emergency calls, no official aviation alerts, and no local press coverage from the dates in question. This creates a disconnect between the published global reports and the lack of any local, independent confirmation from that time. The primary source for the Australian data was a regional interest group called UFO Research Sunshine Coast, based in Wurtulla. Throughout 1996, this group gathered isolated and disparate reports from across the region. Their collection included everything from a bright fireball in September to a series of orange coastal lights reported in late August. In a paranormal database, these unrelated events are logged as a single list. You can see the August Tewantin and September prospect entries stacked together. This formatting strips away individual context, creating a unified record of activity where none actually existed. Grouping these unrelated terrestrial anomalies into a single list manufactures the impression of a connected, ongoing mystery wave. The central event of the Sunshine Coast cluster is the October 17th Bruce Highway incident, where a silver sphere allegedly rose from the sea. The witnesses were not random motorists. The group included the director of Queensland MUFON and 2 visiting American UFO researchers. Before driving down that dark highway, this group had spent the week in Brisbane at a major gathering of international investigators. The Australian International UFO Symposium featured a speaker list including Glenys McKay, John Carpenter, and Joe Lowells. For days, they had been discussing topics like extraterrestrial civilizations and advanced technology. This is a classic example of observer priming. Spending days focused on UFO lore can cause an investigator to interpret an ambiguous light in the distance, like a ship on the horizon, using a complex extraterrestrial vocabulary. While the witnesses likely saw a real light that evening, their shared expectations likely transformed an ambiguous visual into a highly detailed encounter. The Bruce Highway report quickly moved from the witnesses into a printed national compilation called Australian UFO Reports. This regional Australian document made the leap to the early internet when it was uploaded to a new website. The header here highlights the moment the listing went worldwide. This digital transmission allowed the story to cross international borders instantly, where it was picked up by the Canadian-operated UFO Roundup. In its final published form, the Australian sighting was placed directly alongside other international reports. The newsletter editors stitched the Australian report directly next to sightings from Britain, creating the appearance of a coordinated global flap. The events of 1996 were a phenomenon of digital information sharing rather than a coordinated fleet of physical craft. The visual similarities in these 1990s reports do not confirm that identical alien ships were visiting different countries simultaneously. They show that observers around the world used the same limited vocabulary to describe distant, unidentifiable lights in the dark. The early internet echo chamber amplified these shared descriptions into a global spectacle, often ignoring the local, terrestrial reality of each event. Historical investigation requires a clear separation between what was reported online and what can be supported through primary local records. Solving these mysteries requires returning to primary sources like utility logs and regional newspapers. It involves the physical labor of scanning microfilm to see what was actually recorded on the ground. The explanation for the 1996 wave remains in the undigitized local archives of the Sunshine Coast.